Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are trying a different setup. I'm standing up. I have like stuff on my table for the camera and the lighting and stuff. So we're just gonna try doing this standing up today. Right now, I just wanted to try something different. I felt like if I was standing up, it'll be a lot easier for me to talk because if I'm sitting down, it just feels a little too relaxed and I'm just mumbling and repeating what I'm saying. So yeah, we're standing out today. I'm bringing you guys my March wrap up. I actually forgot that I need to film this. I didn't realize that, it is the end of the month and it's sort of a new month. I need to film what I read, talk about what I read the previous month. So yeah, it's been a little weird because of everything that's been happening. I am still going to work. I am part of the essential workers. So it's been very scary and nerve-wracking every day to actually go to work. Thankfully, I don't have to like take any public transportation. So that's one of the good things, but we're surviving. Anyway, without further ado, let's get started with my March wrap up. So for the month of March, I was actually able to read 8 books, which is a little bit more than my usual reading for the past 3 months, which is great. I expected it a little bit. I did read quite a few shorter books and I did read a series, like a whole series for the month, and I did find myself reading a little bit more. So let's get started. The first book that I finished is actually, I literally finished it right when the month started. And that is The King of Crows by Libba Bray. This is the last book in the Diviner series. And I really enjoyed reading the book, whole series. My goal was to finish like the whole series last month, but I wasn't able to. So like literally just days apart from the last book. So anyway, I really enjoyed reading the whole series. It is very hyped up and a lot of people talk about it and love it, and I binge read series, if you guys still didn't know. So I prefer to read like a whole series in one right after the other. So I waited until this was coming out, which I think this came out last month, and so I borrowed it in the library. I borrowed the rest of the books and read it. And I really enjoyed reading all 4 books. I usually don't enjoy reading historical fictions because sometimes when it comes to historical fictions, because I don't know the history or what really was happening or the culture around that time, I won't be able to get into the story and the characters and the settings and stuff. But here I didn't have a hard time doing that. I was able to connect with our characters and I really enjoyed our characters. They're not perfect characters. There's not one character that's like, I love this character. Well, I do. Darko. But they're not perfect. There are stuff that you like about them and that you dislike about it, and sometimes you hate about them. And you see them grow and change throughout the series, and as the story progresses and as the world grows bigger and the stakes get higher and more lives it gets more and more serious, and you realize there are people dying. And it's a lot darker than I expected. I know we are talking about powers and devils and all those things that are dark in and of itself, but it was refreshing to see something that is a YA and coming of age, and we're dealing with like actual people dying and like really gory stuff. That was very refreshing to me. So I really enjoyed reading the whole series. I rated this last book 4 stars. I think overall the series is a 4 stars for me. I really liked it. There were some parts that felt a little bit too, I don't want to say boring, but I feel like personally right now I'm coming out of the young adult books. Genre is just a little bit too young for me right now. So I think I'm gearing more towards new adult and adult series, but still still enjoy reading an young adult series, but I have to like remind myself that I'm reading about young adults and like they're very young, and so they will make mistakes. And although I do think that they're making like stupid mistakes, I have to remember that these are like 6 years younger than me for the most part. So 6, 7, 8 years younger than me. So overall, I did really enjoy the series. I love King of Crows. I definitely want to read a little bit more Libba Bray books because I did read her The Great and Terrible Beauty series. Is that the right word? I don't know, but I read that. That's another historical fiction. I really enjoyed it, but I feel like if I reread it now, I won't enjoy it as much as I did. But still, I really loved reading historical fiction. I like the way she tells her historical fictions because I don't feel alienated. I don't feel like I don't belong. Like I shouldn't be reading this. So I really liked King of Crows. Now, in conjunction to the King of Crows, I was also reading Loki, Where Mischief Lies. This is part of the Disney, I think, retellings, or maybe not, like the Marvel retellings of the different characters. And I read Wonder Woman's story before. I really enjoyed it. And I listened to the story, like the whole thing. I listened to it in audiobook form. I read it in audiobook form. And I rated it 2 stars. It was fun, but I felt like there wasn't really much substance. I wanted to connect a lot more to Loki. I did a little bit, but I still felt very much detached. Like there was still a lot going on that I just did not connect with a lot. I wanted to get more into Loki and his past and the way he's grown up and how he sees other people, and you know what changed him from being someone who's just misunderstood or treated in a different way, not really in a negative, like in a like abusive way, but in a way that's not very encouraging, changing my life, in a way that's not very encouraging and very positive, and how that affected him and therefore made him into the villain. And I don't know, I wanted to explore a little bit more, especially when he came to the human world. Because here, the story is, this is before the Marvel series where he became, it's like a retelling of how he became the villain. He's still regarded as a prince of Asgard, but there's a prophecy that his father saw that one of either Loki or Thor is going to bring a horde of zombies or like dead people and attack the kingdom of Asgard and like destroy the kingdom of Asgard. And Loki, who has these different powers that he got from his mother, he's seen as very sly and dangerous, and he's not seen like his brother Thor, who is like the spitting image of his father, great warrior, charismatic, people follow him. Loki is the complete opposite of that, and people just don't trust him because he's not like his. So there's a lot of backstory going on that I felt like we could have used a little bit more, or we could have explored a little bit more, especially when he came again into the human world and tried to resolve what was happening in the human world. And I don't know, I felt like it could have benefited if it was a little bit longer and we explored it a little bit more. I mean, obviously this is supposed to be just a fun book, but for me, it lacked a bit more substance. It had a lot of potential, but... So the next book that I read is Come Tumbling Down by Seanan McGuire. This is the 5th book in the Wayward Children series. If you guys didn't know the Wayward Children series, we are following different stories of children who gets lost into these different worlds. In our world, they do get lost, but they go into a different world in and of itself, and they spend, depending on like how time goes in these different worlds, sometimes they're gonna be lost here for a few days, but in that other world, they'll be there for years. And so it ultimately changes them. And we're also following Eleanor, who made this school for wayward children. These are the children that went to these worlds and have been really changed. And the main goal that she is advertising the school is that they're going to make these kids re-assimilate into the world that they were from and they were back to. But like the main thing is that there's a lot of these kids, most of them want to go back to their world, because usually these worlds are made for them, or like these worlds call them because if they are part of this world, or they will thrive in this world, this is their world. And so most of them do want to go back and live there because it's the world where they belong. So here we're following Jack and Jill, who in the first book we see them. That's where we first see them, and it's kind of like taking off from there. Here they go back actually to our world, and this time Jack is in Jill's body. A lot of things happen in their world. If you guys have not read the first book, it's very hard to explain, but we're kind of following Jack and Jill's story from where we left off in that first book, because the second, third, and fourth book we're following different people and we're not really reading about them. Well, the second book we read about what happened into their world when they got lost into that world the first time, and then when they came back, that was what was happening in the first book. So it's a little bit complicated, but I enjoyed this book. I rated this a 4 out of 5 stars. My favorite still is going to be the second book, I think, or no, the previous book, the 4th book, where we're following one of the professor's stories, and then the second book, which is actually Jack and Jill's story the first time they went into their world, and probably this one and then the first one. So again, I really enjoyed this. It's a short story as well, but I felt like we were able to, it didn't feel as incomplete as the other books. Like Obviously I want more, and I wish it was a longer, but I felt like this story was able to really give us what we needed in terms of Jack and Jill and their story and the other people's story here, like the other kids' story, as well as their backstory and just their relationship. Really, the main thing about this book series, it's the relationships that they form and them figuring out who they are and what they want and how they can achieve their goals. And it's a very interesting take on coming of age for young adults who discover this world where they feel like they truly belong, and they're fighting to go back and, you know, be in that world where they can be true to themselves. So again, really enjoy this book. We'll definitely be continuing reading in the series because these are short stories. These are all under or like in the 200 mark. I don't think there's even a book that's like over 230, 240 pages. So again, I really enjoyed this book series. I feel like it's a nice end to the story between Jack and Jill, especially with everything that has happened and everything that they've gone through. I feel like it's a bittersweet ending, but you realize that this is what needed to happen, and this is how the story needed to go, because it felt real. It gives you hope, but at the same time it's not going to give you false hope. It didn't feel like too clean and too happy, but at the same time it's not too sad and too gory. It's the right amount of sad and happy, and again, bittersweet ending. So again, come Tumbling Down. I really enjoy this. If you guys have not read the Wayward Children series, try to read it. They're short stories. Literally, you can finish a book in one day because it's 200 pages. Alright, so let's move on to the book series that I did read for the rest of this month. Well, no, I still have a few books which I actually need to get. Anyway, I read this. This is the Folk of the Air series. This is highly praised by a lot. And the thing about it though is I love fairy stories, but I realized over the years the fairy stories that I've read, they all feel to me. Like, definitely fairies growing up, you know, we think of Tinkerbell and, you know, that they're nice and they're happy and they're optimistic and they're very helpful and all of that. But true fairies in, like, you know, Shakespeare kind of fairies, they're brutal. They can't lie, but they're very sly, you know? I wasn't trying to rhyme, but here we are. I would rate this whole series 4 stars. I did rate all books 4 stars. I really enjoy this book, this series. I actually did not expect this to be so gory. I mean, that's what I wanted in a fairy tale, in a fairy, you know, story, because that's like what fairies truly are. And I love exploring that, like the different worlds and how gory they are and how messed up they can think, especially, you know, compared to the way we think. So I really love when a story is able to explore that, but at the same time give them a little bit of humanity, although they are not humans. And in a lot of, you know, retellings and fairy stories, fairies don't really feel human emotions, like true human emotion. They can't really feel love, or they can't feel like, they can feel passion, but not too strong passion. You know, they're kind of, they don't know how to feel truly, in, like, especially in the human way. They can be very cruel and very just tricksters, and that's how they have fun, and that's how, you know, they live. They trick other people, they trick human beings, they, you know, changelings and stuff and all that. So again, I really enjoy stories that really explore, like, fairy qualities and fairy stories. And what I really enjoyed about this series is that we're following young adults here, and we're also following their stories before, how they grew up, like the kind of world that they grew up in. It's a cruel world, okay? There's a lot of killing involved. There's a lot of I forgot the term. Growing up, they're not, you know, they're not taken care of as human beings are. You would even think that they're neglected. There you go, that's a word. They're neglected. There's a lot of neglect. In a lot of ways, they're pretty much thrown to the wolves growing up. They don't get a lot of guidance for the most part. Still, there are, you know, of course, some fairies that are a lot more invested in how their kids grow up, but still, there's a lot of cruelty in the world that they live in, and they in turn, of course, become cruel as well. And I really enjoyed seeing the different stories that we follow here, because here in the first book, we're following Jude, who gets taken into the fairy world because after her half-sister's biological father kills their parents, and they get taken to the fairy world to live there. And they're not really treated bad actually at all by, like, Maddox, who is the father of their older sister. But again, they have to change and reacclimate to this very cruel world that they're now a part of. And she grows up here and she just wants to be part of this world too. Instead of like hating these people, obviously she does, but she wants to be, you know, not seen as weaker and inferior. She actually wants power so that she can show these fairies that she's human, but she is part of this world and she can be powerful. So I really love following her story too. And of course, you know, we're following the sun is being crazy. So my lighting is like changing. So we're also following her as she gets to grow up and learn more about the fairies and just coming of age and what it means for her and her family. And she has a twin sister. She has a younger half brother, not really, actually not related at all, but a younger brother who's pure fairy. So again, they are human. Their mother is human. Their sister is half human, half fairy. And I just really enjoyed how dark this one got and how we definitely explore, especially the love-hate relationship between our main protagonist and our love interest. The love-hate relationship, that tug and pull, is so much fun to read. There were a lot of moments where I'm just like, oh no, like this is just a little too much. Like, this is messed up. And I've learned to accept that they do have a messed up relationship with each other because they grew up in a messed up world. The people around there are also messed up. So they're also messed up. And so the way they show their affections and stuff, it's really messed up. But along the way, they do learn how to, you know, be a little bit better than that, be a little bit more understanding and like understand the different cruel actions of, they learn to understand like the different ways that the other person can show their affection and how they can protect you in such cruel manners. It's like, and I love the different play with words because again, fairies can't lie, so they get very creative when it comes to how they can trick. And so, or you know, the different loopholes. I really enjoy reading parts of those, like the different loopholes with different statements. You have to be very exact and, you know, very specific when you say something, make them promise stuff because they can look for loopholes for what you say. So anyway, again, there's a lot of like really brutal, gory stuff in this book that I definitely did not expect, but I knew I wanted, but I just wasn't expecting it because it's a young adult. It's coming of age, but it's fairy world and it's I feel like it's borderline new adult, you know. We are following young people, but the world that they live in is very cruel and very dark and just, yeah, it's gritty. And I loved it so much. Again, 4 stars. I feel like it would have been better if this was an adult story, but I understand that this is a young adult and there were some parts that you can take control of, but not too much because then it will just be a little bit too much. So I really enjoyed this series, 4 out of 5 stars. I am definitely excited to read more of Holly Black's books because I think I've read 1 or 2 of her previous books, which I don't think I really enjoyed. But Cruel Prince. Oh, I read her Darkest Part of the Forest book. I really enjoyed that. And I think this was kind of like from that world sort of, you know. So that is the Wicked Folk of the Air series. I really enjoyed that series, by the way. I want to read more fairy, because I really enjoy fairy books, especially if they're just really gory and just they feel real and gritty. It's like there was fairy world, it was real. This is how it's gonna be. It's gonna be brutal. It's gonna be cruel. Okay. The next book that I read is A Million Junes by Emily Henry. Here, I rated this a 4 stars. I really enjoyed this. We are following June, who is part of this family in this, how do you say it? She is part of this O'Donnell family who has been enemies with this other family called the Angerts. It's kind of Riverdale-ish because their O'Donnell's family are known to be the source of this like cherries. They can grow cherries, and these cherries are very special, they're very good. But there's also fantasy elements to it, like heavy fantasy elements to it. This is a fantasy book, pretty much, okay? Or fantasy magical realism type. Ever since she's grown up, ever since she was a kid, she was always told to stay away from the Angert family. And so we're following Jack/June O'Donnell, and she meets this boy, Saul, and at first she knew that he was one of the angered family kids. But Sol came back from, I think, going to college in a different city or a different town, different state. He comes back and she thought he didn't know him. He didn't know her, but he did. And they met and they connected and there's actually sparks going on. Like, okay. And so she's learning more about what happened to her father and the history of the O'Donnell and the Angerds and how they came to hate each other so much, but also like the history of their land and the place that they lived in. And she keeps seeing these whites that she calls that takes her back to different memories from the past. It could be memories of her father, memories of her father when she was young, memories with her mother, memories from the angered family as well. And so she learns more and more and more and more about who her family is and who her father was, who her family is, who her father was, and their history and what happened between the O'Donnells and the Angerds. And along the way, she learns how their land has been affected by the animosity between the two families. So it goes way deeper and way darker and way brutal than she expected. So again, it's her learning about these and, you know, her working through it and maybe solving like whatever it is that needs to be done between the families so that they can get rid of this crazy animosity that they have between the two families. So again, I rated this 4 stars. I really enjoyed Sol and Ju and how they got to know each other. It's a very, their love story can be dark, but the way they are with each other is very light and fun and understanding, and just it's not as dramatic and as Romeo and Juliet type, but their dynamic is just a little bit more calm, even though the situation that they're in is the opposite. There's a lot going on, and I just love how from the beginning they've talked to each other, and you know, they've been trusting of each other, and even though they discover more and more about, you know, their history and stuff, they don't let that get between them, and they just want to be together, but they also want to understand and respectfully, you know, address whatever it is that's happening between them and the families and stuff. So I really enjoyed their relationship. That's really the main thing about this, which I wish we would have had more, but that's just me being greedy. But again, 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this. I have a lot of book of the month books that I have put to the side, that when I read that and, you know, read more about it, I wanted to read it, but it's been pushed to the side, but now I'm slowly starting to do that. So, one book of the month book. The last book that I read for this month is Symptoms of a Heartbreak. No, not this one. Hold on, wait, no. It's not a book of the month book. The next book that I read is not a book of the month book. I'm sorry, that was wrong. I'm talking about I Hope You Got This Message by Farah Naz Rishi. Here, we are following the stories of different teenagers as they go about in the last days. They have 7 days, and in 7 days the earth might end. We're following these 3 kids who are navigating the world as they were told that it's gonna end in a few days. And so, you know, as with a lot of, you know, stories about the world ending, this is taken differently by different people. So for Jesse, he doesn't care. His life's always been bad anyway, so what if the world ends? Whatever. And then there's Kate, who wants to learn more about her father, who she never knew anything about, or she heard stories about, but he died too young or too early for her to really get to know him and be with him, and so she wants to learn more about him. And then we have Adim, who is finding her sister, who is trying to forgive her sister after her sister runs away from her family after some revelations were brought to light. So these are 3 teenagers that are navigating the world as it ends, and it's coming of age. They learn more about who they are, their families, the people that they care about, how people can be at the end of the world. And so I rated this 3 stars. I really liked it. I enjoyed it. I know I kind of want to read this because of what's happening around us, and I know that sounds very counterintuitive. Like, why would you read about the world ending and the world is like this? Because like the world, I don't know. I just felt like reading about other people's book and how other people's stories and how they go about and navigate how they're going to spend the last days of their lives, probably how they're going to navigate that. Felt like it would give me comfort. So that's just me being weird about it, but okay. So again, 3 stars. I really like this. I just felt like it was a little too I mean, it's pretty long, but the text is big and the book is actually pretty small, especially compared to like see, it's smaller in height and width, and the text is a lot bigger than the book. I don't know, we're definitely focusing more on the stories of these three kids rather than who these alien are. So even though it's science fiction, it's more of a young adult, contemporary, coming of age type. Just like Hank Green's book, The Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. It follows more of our character stories, more of a character-driven book rather than a plot-driven book, or a little bit more plot and character-driven. Although we do get kind of different transcripts of the meetings between the alien people and if they will be like ending the world in 7 days, and they discuss that, and you know, the pros and cons and stuff, and that was interesting to see. I definitely I didn't feel like I wanted more of the alien story. I mean, I do in a little bit, but I feel like it won't really add more to the story. It's just, you know, just me liking science fiction alien stuff. But I enjoyed following their stories. It is pretty young adult. Again, I feel like I'm moving out of the young adult genre, more into new adult genres. So I feel like I didn't enjoy it as much as I would have if I read this if I was a little bit younger. But still, I feel like this is such a good coming of age story, especially in terms of like the forgiveness and coming into terms with the world that they live in, especially with Jesse. He's been like, whatever, you know, my life's already been miserable anyway. And then Kate, who just wants to learn more about her father, and then Ajim, who wants to end the world where him and his sister is in like good terms, and just wants one more last conversation with his sister. That's what needs to be done if it's possible. So that is it for my March wrap up. I hope I didn't ramble too much. I feel like I did. I'm looking at the time and I'm still talking a lot. So I mean, I talked about 8 books, so I feel like 35 minutes of footage that I probably can cut down to 20. Still pretty good. But yeah, that is it for hold on. No, I didn't finish that. Okay. Yeah, there's another book that I want to talk about that I actually didn't finish technically in March. I finished it a few days ago, like yesterday. I definitely want to talk about that. I feel like I need to do a whole discussion video on that in a little bit, or just really talk about that a little bit more in my April wrap up. But I'm very excited about that. So, again, I'm really talking a lot, and I feel like I'm talking too fast because I didn't want it to be this long. But anyway, here we are. Sorry if I'm moving a lot. I'm not used to standing up. I feel like, because when I talk, I do a lot of hand gestures. And I think naturally, because I'm standing up, my whole body's just moving with me. Anyway, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you had fun listening to me talk about these books. If you guys have read these books, tell me what you guys thought, especially with, you know, the Wicked Folk of the Air series, especially with the Folk of the Air series, because it's very much hyped out. A lot of people have read about it. Did you guys like it? Did you like it as much as I did? Did you not like it? What did you guys think? Let me know down below. Let's have a discussion, please. So yeah, that's it. I'm gonna stop moving. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys on my next one. You can check out my other videos right here. Bye.